The front door slammed. Not loud, but heavy. The kind of slam that said everything without saying anything. Frank Miller sat in his recliner, pretending to read the newspaper. But he wasn't reading. He was listening. He heard his grandson's footsteps go straight upstairs, heard the bedroom door close, the lock click. He knew why. Basketball team cuts were posted today. The boy didn't make it. Junior varsity, the team he'd been training for since summer. The team that was supposed to be his ticket to feeling like he belonged somewhere. Frank set down the paper and waited. Gave him 10 minutes. Then he walked to the bottom of the stairs. "Hey," he called up. "You hungry?" Silence. "I'm ordering pizza. Your choice. But you gotta come down and tell me what you want." More silence. Then finally, "I'm not hungry, Grandpa." "Well, I am, and I'm not eating alone, so get down here." Frank didn't wait for an answer. He pulled out his phone, ordered a large pepperoni, the boy's favorite, and headed out to the backyard. The lawn was getting that early spring green. Nice evening, good for talking. 5 minutes later, he heard the sliding door open. His grandson came out, hands shoved in his hoodie pockets, wouldn't look at him. Sat down in the lawn chair farthest from Frank's. They sat there in silence for a bit. That was okay. Silence was fine. The pizza arrived. Frank set the box between them, opened it. The boy didn't move. "You know," Frank said, taking a slice, "I know how it feels, not getting what you want." His grandson glanced at him, then away. "I'm serious. I know exactly how it feels. Like the world just told you you're not good enough. Like everything you work for doesn't matter." The boy was listening now. Still wouldn't look at him, but he was listening. "Can I tell you something?" Frank asked. "About where my tire business came from? It might help." His grandson shrugged. "Teenage for go ahead." "It wasn't my idea," Frank said. "The tire shop, the whole business. None of it was my plan." Now the boy looked at him. "It was my best friend's idea, Tommy, and he never got to see it happen." Frank took a breath. "Let me tell you why. I was 22 years old when Tommy Patterson and I got drafted. Same week. March 1967. We'd grown up 3 houses apart in a small Pennsylvania town. Knew each other since we were 6 years old. Played baseball together. Got in trouble together. Failed algebra together. Tommy was the brother I never had. Tommy was a mechanic. Loved cars. Loved everything about them. Engines, transmissions, the smell of motor oil. But his real dream? Tires. I know, sounds weird. But he'd say, "Frank, everybody needs tires. You crash your car, you need body work once. But tires, you need those every few years, forever. It's a business that never dies." He had it all planned out. We'd come back from Vietnam, pool our money, buy a garage on Main Street. "Miller and Patterson's tire shop," he'd say. My last name, his last name. Equal partners. We made a pact. We were going to survive Vietnam together and come home and build that shop together. The draft letters came in March. We reported in April. By May, we were in hell. You ever been somewhere so hot you can't think straight? Where the air is thick enough to chew? That's Vietnam. Jungle so dense you can't see 10 feet in any direction. Every step, wondering if it would be your last. Tommy and I were infantry, patrols mostly. Walking through that jungle for hours, looking for an enemy that could be anywhere or nowhere. Hearts always racing, hands always shaking, learning to function scared. But Tommy kept us sane. Even in the worst moments, he'd talk about the shop. "First thing I'm doing when we get back," he'd say, crouched in some muddy foxhole, "is buying that garage on Main Street. You know, the one next to the hardware store? Old man Jenkins wants to retire. I already talked to him before we left." "Tommy, we don't have the money," I'd remind him, "so we save. We work. We make it happen. That's the plan, Frank. That's always been the plan." Tommy would show me letters from his girl, Sarah. She'd send pictures. He'd kiss every one before folding them back into his pocket. Tommy got letters every week, sometimes twice a week. "Gonna marry her when I get back," he'd say. Shop first, then Sarah. I had a girl too. Caroline, blonde hair, prettiest smile I'd ever seen. We'd started dating senior year of high school, but Caroline didn't write much. In 13 months, I received exactly 2 letters from her. The first one came 3 months in. It was short, pleasant, said she hoped I was safe, said things at home were fine, nothing more. The second letter came at month 11. I'd been waiting, hoping. When it finally arrived, my hands shook as I opened it. Dear Frank, I hope this letter finds you well. I've been thinking about you, about us. I'm looking forward to when you come home. Maybe we can talk about the future. I think about it sometimes. Take care of yourself, Carolyn. I read that letter 100 times. Talk about the future. I think about it sometimes. It wasn't a promise, but it was hope, and hope was enough. Tommy would watch me read that letter over and over. She's waiting for you, man. I can tell. You think so? I know so. We're both going home to our girls. That's the plan. The plan was simple. Survive 13 months, go home, start living. We did 12 months and 3 weeks. It was a Tuesday morning in May 1968. The jungle was so thick you couldn't see 10 feet ahead. Tommy and I and 8 other guys were on patrol, moving through that dense vegetation like we'd done 100 times before. Tommy was walking point. He always volunteered for point. That was the kind of guy he was. Brave? Hell, he was stupid brave. The kind that gets you killed. I was right behind him, maybe 15 feet back. I could see the back of his helmet bobbing through the leaves. He was humming something. I think it was that Creedence song, Fortunate Son. He always hummed when he was nervous. Then, silence. Not normal jungle silence. Wrong silence. The kind where even the birds stopped. Tommy raised his fist. We all froze. My heart was hammering so loud I was sure the enemy could hear it. He took one more step forward and the world exploded. I didn't hear the shot. I just saw Tommy's body jerk backwards like someone had yanked a rope attached to his chest. He hit the ground, and suddenly everything was moving in slow motion and fast motion at the same time. I was screaming his name. I was running. Bullets were snapping through the air, that crack, crack, crack sound that haunts me forever. I didn't care. I just needed to get to Tommy. I slid next to him. There was blood. So much blood. It soaked into the mud, mixing with the rain that had started to fall. His eyes were open, looking right at me, and he was trying to say something. I pulled him into my arms. His body was shaking. You're okay. You're okay, I lied to him, lied to myself. Medic's coming. Just hold on. Hold on, Tommy. Just hold on. He grabbed my wrist. His grip was still strong. That gave me hope for maybe 5 seconds. Then I looked down and saw where the bullet had gone in. I knew. You always know. Tell Sarah, he whispered. You were gonna tell her yourself, I said. My voice was breaking. You're going home, man. We're both going home. He tried to smile. The shop, he said. Promise me. The shop. Tommy, don't. Promise me, he said again, squeezing my wrist with everything he had left. I promise, I said. Tears were streaming down my face, mixing with the rain. I swear, Tommy, I'll do it. I'll build the shop. He smiled, actually smiled. Good, he whispered. And then he just stopped. That's what death is. It's not dramatic. It's not like the movies. It's just stopping. 1 second he was looking at me. The next second he was looking through me at something I couldn't see. I held him for what felt like hours, but it was probably 30 seconds. The rain came down harder, washing his blood off my hands, but not really. You understand? Not really. Someone was pulling me away. He's gone, man. He's gone. We gotta move. But I couldn't move. I was frozen there in that jungle, holding my best friend's body and thinking, this is it. This is the worst moment of my life. Nothing will ever hurt like this again. I was wrong about that last part. Grandpa, I'm sorry. My grandson's voice was quiet. I nodded, took a breath. I know, kid. Thank you. Let me keep going. The next 2 weeks were a blur. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think. I wrote a letter to Sarah. It was the hardest thing I'd ever written. I told her Tommy had talked about her every day. I told her Tommy had loved her. I told her Tommy had died fast, which was a lie. But she didn't need to know that. I finished my tour in a fog. I stopped caring if I lived or died. But I made it through. Didn't even know how. Late June 1968, I was on a plane back to the States. I was numb, hollow, but I was holding on to one thing. Carolyn. I had her 2 letters. I'd kept them in my pack, read them until the paper started wearing thin. That second letter especially. I'm looking forward to when you come home. Maybe we can talk about the future. That's what kept me breathing on that flight home. Tommy was gone, but Caroline was waiting. Maybe love could save me. Maybe that was how I'd survive this. The plane landed in San Francisco. There were protesters at the airport. They screamed at us, called us baby killers, spit at us. I just put my head down and walked through it. I didn't care. I just wanted to see Caroline. I took a bus home. 3 days of traveling. I didn't sleep. I just stared out the window and thought about her smile. I got to her house on a Thursday afternoon, July 3rd, 1968. I'll never forget the date. The street looked exactly the same. Her house looked exactly the same. White siding, blue shutters, the rose bushes her mom had planted years ago. I walked up to the front door. My heart was pounding. I was wearing my uniform. I thought she'd like that. I knocked. Carolyn's mother answered. The look on her face told me everything before she said a word. Frank, she said. Her voice was gentle. Too gentle. I didn't know you were coming home today. Is Caroline here? I asked. My voice sounded far away. Her mom looked down. Frank, she got married 3 months ago. I'm so sorry. The world tilted. Married? I repeated, like I hadn't heard her right. She thought you weren't coming back. The war. She couldn't wait anymore. I couldn't feel my legs. I sat down, right there on her porch steps. Just sat. Her mom tried to say something else, but I didn't hear it. All I could hear was static. All I could see was Tommy dying, Carolyn's letters, and the promises in the future that was supposed to happen. I don't remember walking back to my parents' house. I just remember sitting in my childhood bedroom, pulling out those 2 letters, reading them again. I'm looking forward to when you come home. Maybe we can talk about the future. And then I burned them. Both of them. In the backyard. Watched them turn to ash. Tommy was dead. Caroline was married. I was 24 years old and I genuinely believed my life was over. For 2 weeks I fell apart. I drank every night, stopped eating. My parents worried, but they didn't know what to do. Nobody talked about Vietnam. Nobody wanted to hear about it. I was stuck, completely stuck. The days blurred together. Wake up, stare at the ceiling, drink, sleep, repeat. But on the 14th night, something changed. I was sitting in my room, staring at Tommy's dog tags. I'd taken them off his body, kept them. I didn't know why. And then I felt something. It wasn't a voice, it wasn't a vision, it was just a feeling. Like someone was standing next to me, like Tommy was there looking at me with that disappointed look he'd get when I was being stupid. My hand moved to my desk drawer. I didn't plan it, didn't think about it. I just opened the drawer and pulled out an old composition notebook from high school. I opened it to a blank page, and I started writing. Life will get better. I didn't believe it, but my hand kept moving. I will make it better. Tommy's shop will exist. I will keep my promise. I set down the pen, stared at what I'd written. It felt like Tommy had told me to do it, like this was the first step. Wait, you felt like Tommy was there? My grandson interrupted. I nodded. I did. I can't explain it, kid. But in that moment, I felt like my friend was telling me, write it down, start there. So that's what I did. From that night on, I wrote every morning. Just one sentence. Sometimes it was hopeful. Sometimes it was angry. Sometimes it was just, I'm still here. But I kept writing. And slowly, so slowly, I barely noticed. I started believing it. And on day 16, I got out of bed with a purpose. What would Tommy do right now? The answer was obvious. He'd start working. It was mid-July 1968. I was 2 weeks removed from the darkest period of my life. I had no plan, no money, no direction, but I had a promise. I took my last $200 from my savings, Drove to a pawn shop, bought some used tools, tire irons, a jack, an air compressor that barely worked. I set everything up in my parents' driveway. I put a sign on the mailbox, tire repair, $5. First week, nobody came. Second week, one guy showed up. His tire had a nail in it. I patched it. He paid me $5. It wasn't much, but it was something. Word started spreading. Neighbors told neighbors. I was cheap. I was fast. I was honest. More people came, then more. I worked 16-hour days. My back hurt. My hands were covered in grease. But I was learning. Every tire I touched taught me something. How to spot wear patterns. How to read tread depth. How to diagnose alignment issues just by looking. Tommy used to talk about this stuff in Vietnam. You got to understand the tire, Frank. It's not just rubber. It tells you stories. I was learning to read those stories. 2 months in, I realized I needed real inventory. I couldn't keep fixing old tires forever. I needed to sell new ones, but new tires cost money I didn't have. There was one guy in town who could help me. Big Jim Patterson, owning Patterson's Tire Warehouse. 3 locations, trucks coming in from Detroit every week. He was the biggest dealer in the county, and I was nobody. But I had nothing to lose. I walked into his warehouse on a Tuesday morning. It was massive. Tires stacked 20 feet high, forklifts buzzing around, the smell of rubber so thick you could taste it. I wore the only clean shirt I owned and boots I'd polished twice. The secretary looked me up and down. You have an appointment? No, ma'am, but I need 5 minutes with Mr. Patterson. She was about to tell me to leave when Big Jim walked out of his office. He was exactly what you'd expect. 6'3", barrel chest, cigar in his mouth, suspenders. Looked like he could bench press a Buick. He saw me standing there and stopped. Help you, son? This was it. Mr. Patterson, my name's Frank Miller. I'm a veteran just back from Vietnam. I've been fixing tires out of my driveway and I'm good at it. Word's spreading, but I need inventory. He took the cigar out of his mouth. So go buy inventory. I don't have the money, not yet, but I've got a deal for you, and he crossed his arms. I could feel every worker in that warehouse watching us now. A deal, he said. Not a question, a challenge. Give me stock on commission. I'll take 50 tires to start. I sell them, you get your cut, say 60%. I keep 40. I don't sell them, I bring them back. No loss to you. Big Jim stared at me. I couldn't read his face. Then he laughed. Not a friendly laugh, a this kid's got balls laugh. You know how many guys come in here with schemes like this? Every week somebody's got an angle. I'm not an angle, I said. My voice was steady. I'm a promise. I made a promise to my best friend before he died in my arms in Vietnam. He wanted a tire shop. I'm building it, and I don't break promises. The warehouse went quiet. Big Jim took a long drag on his cigar, squinted at me through the smoke. Vietnam, huh? 13 months, infantry, came home 2 months ago. He nodded slow, didn't say anything for what felt like an hour, but it was probably 10 seconds. You got a truck? Yes, sir. You got a business license? Got the paperwork started. You got insurance? I hesitated. Not yet. He shook his head, started to turn away. My heart dropped. Mr. Patterson, he stopped, looked back. I'll work harder than anyone you've ever met, I said. I'll sell every tire you give me, door to door if I have to. I'll undercut every shop in town. I'll be honest, I'll be fair, and I'll move product. 2 months. Give me 2 months. If I don't sell, you take the tires back and you never see me again. Big Jim studied me, really studied me, like he was looking past my words to see what I was made of. What did you do in Vietnam? Infantry, patrols, kept my squad alive. You lose anybody? My throat tightened. My best friend, last week of our tour. He nodded again, slow, respectful. Then, all right. I blinked. All right. 50 tires, 60-40 split like you said, but not 2 months. You got 6 weeks. And if you screw me, if you damage my reputation, if one customer complains about a bad tire or shady dealing, I'll make sure every supplier in this state knows your name. You'll never work in this business again. We clear? Crystal clear, sir. And get that insurance before you take the tires. Yes, sir, he turned to one of his workers. Eddie, load up 50 mixed radials for Mr. Miller here. Good ones, no garbage. Eddie looked confused but started moving. Big Jim stepped closer to me, lowered his voice. I'm doing this because I'm a Korean War vet and because you didn't bullshit me. But mostly because you said you made a promise to your dead friend. That means something. I could barely speak. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. You won't regret this. I better not. He stuck out his hand. I shook it. His grip could crush coal into diamonds. 6 weeks, kid. Clock starts now. I loaded those 50 tires into my truck like they were made of gold. Because to me, they were. They were Tommy's dream. They were my second chance. They were everything. 6 weeks to sell 50 tires. I drove straight home and got to work. I made a list of every mechanic shop, every gas station, every business with a parking lot in a 20-mile radius. Then I started calling. Hi, this is Frank Miller. I'm a local tire dealer. Can I stop by and give you a quote? Most of them hung up. Some said no. A few said sure. I showed up to every single one that said sure. I brought a tire with me, showed them the quality. Undercut the competition by 20%. You won't find a better price anywhere. I guarantee it. And if you're not happy, I'll take them back. I sold 6 tires the first week. Not great, but it was a start. I kept going. Door to door, business to business. I worked from sunrise to midnight, slept 4 hours a night, ate 1 meal a day. Week 2, 12 tires sold. Week 3, 18 tires sold. I was exhausted. My truck was breaking down. My back was killing me, but I was moving product. Week 4, I hit a wall. Sales slowed down. I was at 36 tires sold, 14 left, 2 weeks to go. I panicked. Started thinking maybe I wasn't going to make it. Maybe Big Jim was going to take the tires back and I was going to fail, and Tommy's promise was going to die with him. Then I remembered something Tommy used to say in Vietnam. When you hit a wall, go around it. If you can't go around it, go through it. So I changed tactics. I stopped going to businesses. I started going to neighborhoods, knocking on doors. Excuse me, ma'am, I'm Frank Miller, local tire guy. When's the last time you checked your tires? Let me take a look for free. If you need new ones, I'll give you a deal you can't beat. People were skeptical at first, but I was polite, I was honest, and I actually checked their tires. Some didn't need new ones, and I told them that. They appreciated it. Word spread. Neighbor told neighbor. The vet who was honest. The guy who didn't rip you off. Week 5, 45 tires sold, 1 week left. 5 tires to go. I was so close I could taste it. I pushed harder. Every door, every driveway. I was shameless. I was desperate. I was determined. Day 41. I sold the last 5 tires, 6 weeks, 50 tires, done. I drove back to Big Jim's warehouse, walked into his office. He looked up from his desk. Well, sold them all, I said. 6 weeks, 50 tires, every single one. He leaned back in his chair, studied me again. Then he smiled. First time I'd seen him smile. I'll be damned, he said. All right, kid, you want another 50? I want 100, I said. He laughed. 100. You got guts. I'll give you that. All right, same deal, 60-40, but this time you got 8 weeks. I'll do it in 6, I said. We'll see about that. I took the 100 tires, sold them in 5 weeks. Big Jim was impressed, really impressed. He started giving me better terms. 50-50 split. Then I got storefront credit. Business was growing fast now, but I was still doing everything alone, and I couldn't keep up. It was early December 1968, 5 months since I'd come home. The phone was ringing constantly. Customers were waiting. I was losing business because I couldn't keep up. I needed someone to answer phones, take orders, schedule appointments. I didn't have much money to pay anyone, but I had to try. I was thinking through people I knew, and I remembered Linda. Linda had lived 3 houses down from me growing up. Quiet girl, always at church, always in those Sunday dresses. When I was 16, I thought she was plain. Mousy brown hair, no makeup, nose in a Bible. I never looked twice. Her dad had died in Korea, 1953. She'd been living with just her mom ever since. Money was tight for them. I walked over to her house one evening, knocked on the door. Her mom answered. "Frank, good to see you. Heard you're doing well with the tire business." "Yes, ma'am. Actually, that's why I'm here. Is Linda home? I've got a job offer for her." Linda came to the door. She was 25 now, still quiet, still plain, but there was something steady about her, something calm. "Hi, Frank," she said. "Hi, Linda. Listen, I know this is out of the blue, but I need help at the shop. Someone to answer phones, take orders, keep things organized. It's not glamorous. $2 an hour to start. But if you're interested, the job's yours." She didn't hesitate. "When do I start?" Tomorrow? I'll be there." The first week, Linda was efficient, organized, polite, but distant. She reorganized my entire filing system in 2 days, remembered every customer's name after hearing it once, caught mistakes I made on invoices. I started noticing things. How she handled difficult customers with grace. How she never complained even when the work got overwhelming. How she had this quiet strength that I completely missed when we were kids. One evening we were closing up shop. Linda was balancing the books, something I'd been terrible at, and she laughed at something a customer had said earlier. That's when it hit me. She wasn't playing, she never had been. I'd just been too young and stupid to see it. A few nights later, I was locking up, and Linda was still there, finishing paperwork. I sat down across from her. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Sure." "Why'd you take this job? You could have worked anywhere." She set down her pen, looked at me. "Because you're doing something real. You're building something. And because," she paused, "because I know what it's like to lose someone." My dad never came back from Korea. My mom never talks about it, but I see it in her eyes every day. "When you told me about your friend Tommy, I understood." We sat there in silence for a minute. "Thank you," I finally said. "For what?" "For being here, for understanding." She smiled. "You're welcome." That's when I knew. She wasn't my second choice. She was the right choice. The choice I couldn't have seen when I was too young to know what mattered. Over the next month, Linda and I worked side by side, late nights, early mornings, building the business together. One night in mid-December, I was driving her home after a particularly long day. We sat in my truck outside her house and I just said it. "Linda, would you want to get dinner with me sometime?" Not as co-workers, as something else. She was quiet for a second, then she smiled. "I thought you'd never ask." We started dating. It was easy, natural. There was no drama, no games, just two people who understood each other, who'd both lost people they loved. Who knew what it was like to rebuild? By late December, I'd saved enough. Barely enough, but enough. I found the garage, the one on Main Street, the one Tommy had always talked about. Old Man Jenkins was finally ready to retire. I signed the lease on January 2nd, 1969, 6 months and 1 week after I'd come home from Vietnam. It was small, run down, needed work, but it was ours. I spent 2 weeks getting it ready, painting walls, fixing the lifts, installing equipment. Linda helped every step of the way. I painted a sign myself, "Miller's Tire Shop, honest service, fair prices." I didn't put Tommy's last name on it like we'd planned, but I hung Tommy's dog tags above the register. Every day, they'd be the first thing I saw. And one evening, as we were putting the finishing touches on the shop, I turned to Linda. "I know this is fast," I said, "but I don't want to waste any more time. Linda, will you marry me?" She looked at me, at the shop we'd built together, at the life we were creating from nothing. "Yes," she said. We got married 3 weeks later, January 25th, 1969. Small ceremony in her church, 20 people, simple reception in her mom's backyard. And on February 1st, 1969, 6 months and 3 weeks after I'd come home from war, we opened Miller's Tire Shop. The first year was hard, really hard. Your grandma and I were barely making ends meet. There were nights I wondered if we were going to fail. But she was there, every step. She handled the books, kept me organized, talked me down when I panicked. And slowly, so slowly, it grew. One employee became 2, 2 became 5. We opened a second location, then a third. Years blurred together. 1970, 1975, 1980. We had kids, then grandkids. The business kept growing. Miller's Tire Shop became Miller's Tire Centers. 10 locations, then 20. I made sure it was run the way Tommy would have wanted. Honest, fair, good to people. Every employee I hired, I told them about Tommy, about the promise, about why this business existed. Tommy's dream became my empire, and every single day I made sure it was worthy of him. I finished my story. The lawn was quiet now. The pizza box was empty. The sun was setting. My grandson stared at me, eyes wet. So, his voice cracked. You lost everything twice, and in 6 months you built all of that? Not built, I corrected. I started in 6 months. The building took years, but the starting? That only took 6 months. 2 weeks to hit rock bottom. 2 weeks to start writing in that diary. And 6 months to go from fixing tires in a driveway to opening that shop and marrying your grandmother. How? How did you do it? I took one step, then another, then another. The diary. The first tire sale, meeting Big Jim, hiring your grandma. Every day was just one step. None of it felt like making it at the time. It just felt like surviving. But that's what rebuilding is. He nodded, wiped his eyes. That basketball team, I said gently. I know it feels like everything right now. Tommy felt like everything. Caroline felt like everything. But here's what I learned. Endings aren't endings. They're just redirections. What if I can't rebuild like you did? You will. You know how I know? Because you're here. You didn't stay locked in that room. You came outside. You ate pizza. You listened. That's the first step. He looked at me, really looked at me. Grandpa, do you still think about Tommy? Every single day, every tire I sell, every employee I hire, he's in all of it. And you know what? I felt him that night, the night I started writing in the diary. I felt like he was telling me, start here, take this step. And I did. Maybe that was just grief. Maybe it was something else. But it saved my life. My phone buzzed. I looked at it and smiled. Your grandma, I said. She's in Chicago for the tire convention. I answered. Hey, honey. Yeah, I'm with him. No, he's okay. I was just telling him about us. About Tommy. Yeah, the whole story. I know. I love you too. I hung up, looked at my grandson. She says hi, and she says you're going to be fine. He half smiled. She didn't even talk to me. She doesn't need to. She knows. 47 years of marriage, she knows everything. We sat there in comfortable silence. Grandpa, thank you. For what? For showing me life doesn't end. I put my hand on his shoulder. It never does, kid. It just changes direction. You just have to take that first step. He looked up at me. 6 months, huh? 6 months. From rock bottom to opening that shop. From thinking I had nothing to starting's everything. And it all started with one sentence in a notebook. He smiled. A real smile. For the first time since coming home. Then he picked up another slice of pizza. Took a bite. There you go, I said. That's the first step. He laughed. Actually laughed. We sat there together in the fading light. The weight lifted, the lesson learned. Life doesn't end. It just begins again. And again. And again. You just have to keep rebuilding.